let's talk about sex. Actually, I want to talk to you about sexual innuendos so that you know if somebody else is talking about sex. Let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Wes. The channel is Interactive English, which is all about trying to help you practice and improve your English skills. And today it's all about really helping you improve your comprehension, because sexual innuendos, this is something that you will hear and you may come across them in TV shows, movies, possibly even casual and informal conversation. So I think this lesson, it's going to have some vocabulary in it, but it's also cultural as well. So let's begin with, well, what an innuendo means. An innuendo is when somebody makes a remark that suggests something sexual or unpleasant without directly saying it. Now, not all innuendos are sexual, but many of them are, which is why in this lesson we're just going to focus on sexual innuendos. And let's just begin with, well, maybe it's a bit of a creepy example. If you enjoy learning English, I want you to hit that like button. Go ahead and pound that dirty like button because you're a naughty English learner. All right, I apologize. All right, I'm not going to do that again. I felt a bit awkward just saying it, but I told you that was a bit of a creepy example. Now, even though I was just asking you to hit the like button, I was suggesting something sexual. And I think it was quite obvious. I'm sure that you understood that because of the words that I was using, my intonation, and my emphasis. And those are three things that may help you identify a sexual innuendo. There are many words out there that people may use when talking about sex. So if we're talking about, well, the act of having sex, words like hit, pound, or smack may be used. If we're talking about perhaps the anatomy, body parts of a man or a woman, words like big or hard or wet. Or even if you're talking about somebody's behavior, their personality, you may use words like naughty or even bad. And I would like to point out that naughty, I think this is a common one. Even though this word is used to describe somebody's poor behavior, I think often people may refer to children as naughty. If you are talking about an adult, and there are many adults out there that have bad behavior, but if you say they're naughty, I think there's a good chance somebody may think that you are talking about this in a sexual way. So just be careful about describing somebody as naughty, especially if it's an adult. But since these are all words that people may use when actually talking about sex, they may also be used when people are trying to make some sort of sexual innuendo. Intonation may also be used if somebody is trying to say some sort of sexual innuendo because the rising and falling of my voice may sound a bit sexual and suggestive, even though I'm not saying anything that's very important. And finally, emphasis. If you emphasize a word, it really draws attention to that word. It's like you're saying that, okay, this word is important. So if you emphasize one of those words that I talked to you about, like big or smack or hard, then people are going to think, okay, well, why is this word important? Why are you emphasizing this word? Are you trying to suggest something else? So word choice, intonation, and emphasis are three things that I think can help you easily identify a sexual innuendo. There are also some common expressions and jokes that people may say, which is another great way to identify whether or not someone is using a sexual innuendo. One expression that I think you would hear is, if you know what I mean. So somebody would say the sexual innuendo. They would make some suggestive remark and then follow it with, if you know what I mean.
You're my kind of man, if you know what I mean. That's not what I meant!
A joke that you may hear, which I think is probably more common if you're watching a TV show or movie, it's not one that you may hear just in conversation, is that somebody would refer to something that is perhaps in a man's pocket, something that is around their crotch, and they would follow it with, or are you just happy to see me? Is that a candy bar in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? Trying to suggest that the man is aroused, excited, and just really happy to see someone.
Dawson, is that a tree branch, or are you just happy to see me?
Is that Coke in your bra? You're just glad to see me.
Even emojis can be used as sexual innuendos. So you don't even have to say anything. I can just show you these emojis right here. and you could probably guess what it may be trying to suggest. Let's look at a real-life example of a sexual innuendo. And I'm going to show this to you. I'm going to show you an ad, and I want to see if you can kind of understand what it's trying to suggest and think about some of those suggestive words. Here's the ad. Congratulations, George Brownridge, for pleasing 15 women for an entire day. We were all exhausted and very satisfied, and we look forward to next year. We all thank you. So this ad, it's quite funny because I think the sexual innuendo is pretty obvious. And I did not read it with much intonation or emphasis because I really wanted you to think about some of those suggestive words. The first one is please. So to please someone, I think people may use this when referring to sex, that the other person is happy with the performance and that they're quite satisfied, which is another word, another suggestive word that appears in this ad. I think just another word that just adds on top of everything is exhausted. That the fact that everyone was very tired, it really does make the sexual innuendo more apparent. Now, I don't know if this was maybe an accident, or perhaps somebody at the paper was having some fun with this ad, or maybe if the whole thing was a joke. But the following day, they came out with this apology. Our sincere apology to George Brownridge and staff. Our intentions were to thank him for a generous holiday shopping trip which he arranged. This annual tradition is much appreciated. Any inappropriate innuendos were unintentional, and we take full responsibility for the ad that appeared in yesterday's papers. That is a real-life example of a sexual innuendo, and I chose it because I think it's pretty easy to understand, to identify, and to know, well, okay, why? Why is this a sexual innuendo? But as I mentioned before, I think many times sexual innuendos, they're not going to be so obvious, and they're going to be quite subtle. And to find that, we have to look no further than children's movies. That's right, children's movies, well, some of them have a lot of sexual innuendos. So I'm going to show you some right now, and we're going to talk about it. This is something that has gone on for, I think, many years. But I would say that I think one film that kind of really changed the way that this was done, and they did a very good job of putting some of these sexual innuendos in there very subtly, is Toy Story. And then since then, I think a lot more movies have been doing this. But let me show you an example from the movie Toy Story. So you have one of the main characters, Woody, who has these interactions with Little Bo Peep. And I think quite often when they have their interactions, there's typically some sexual innuendo involved, like this one right here.
Oh, hey, it was, nothing.
What do you say I get someone else to watch the sheep tonight?
Hell yeah.
So this is a suggestive question. She doesn't use any words that I think are unpleasant or graphic. She does use that intonation, which really, I think, tries to make it a little more obvious what she's trying to say. Somebody else watches the sheep. We can go off together. We can fool around, have sex, and there is your sexual innuendo. Another popular movie, Frozen, also has some sexual innuendos, which I think adults would find very humorous. In the clip that I'm getting ready to show you, one of the main characters, Anna, she's talking about her fiancé. And this is a guy that she decided to marry just after meeting him. And the other character in the clip, Kristoff, he's very surprised by this. He's like, I can't believe you're marrying this guy right after you met him. How well can you possibly know him? So he starts asking her these questions to see if she really knows this person.
What's his last name?
Of the Southern Isles.
What's his favorite food?
Sandwiches.
Best friend's name?
Probably John.
Eye color?
Dreamy.
Foot size?
Foot size doesn't matter.
The sexual innuendo, it's at the very end when he asks about foot size. And he even says it with a different intonation. Foot size. And she responds, foot size doesn't matter. So this is a sexual innuendo because they're not talking about the size of his foot. They're talking about the size of his, and I'm not talking about an eggplant. Here's an example from the movie Shrek. And Shrek, well, let's just talk about it on the other side.
That's it right there. That's Dulac. I told you I'd find it.
So, that must be Lord Farquaad's castle.
That's the place.
Do you think maybe he's compensating for something?
So they get to this castle and they see the king's huge castle, and Shrek asks, do you think he's compensating for something? Suggesting that the king has this very big castle because really he has a small. And this question, do you think he's compensating for something, is a question that you may come across in other TV shows and movies. Somebody may even use it in casual conversation if they're making a joke. Perhaps a guy has a very expensive car and he has this car because he wants to impress all these different women. You could ask, do you think he's compensating for something, if you know what I mean? Here's an example from the film Ratatouille when Chef Linguini, he's trying to confess to this other person, Colette, that, well, he's really not a great chef. He's getting all this help from a rat, and he's having a difficult time telling her. Pay attention to her eyes as he's saying this.
You had a rush?
No. I have this tiny, little, a tiny chef who tells me what to do.
So I thought this was kind of funny that he's talking about this tiny little, and you see her eyes quickly glance down to his crotch as though he's suggesting something else. And eventually, yes, he tells her it's a tiny little rat. But again, it's very subtle, and I think it's something that maybe children might not catch on to, but adults, they're going to find it funny. And then I wanted to show you this sexual innuendo from the movie Cars because, well, it's not about what's being said, it's about the action. So just have a look and see if you understand the sexual innuendo.
I'm Mia. I'm Tia. We're like your biggest fans.
So the two cars, which we can presume to be women, are flashing their headlights at Lightning McQueen. And the sexual innuendo is, well, it's suggesting that they are showing Lightning McQueen their breast. Because, well, there's two different things. Headlights can be an innuendo for a woman's breast, but also flash. That verb, to flash, means to show something, well, quickly and for a short period of time. But if we're talking about how it may be used sexually, women would flash somebody. It's like they're revealing their breast. And if you're talking about a man, if he flashes somebody, he would be revealing his crotch. Try to keep an eye out or listen for a sexual innuendo the next time you may be watching a children's movie. I told you, I think nowadays they're pretty common. I hope that this lesson was easy to follow and understand. I'm not telling you that you need to try to use sexual innuendos in your conversation. If anything, it's just good for your comprehension. But right now, what I want you to do is, I love hearing from you guys. So in the comments, I just want you to write me a big comment, if you know what I mean. Actually, I don't even know what I mean. I just want you to write me a comment. And actually, if you want to try to practice and try to use a sexual innuendo, write one in the comments. See if you can say something suggestive that we could, well, interpret as a sexual innuendo. Write that in the comments. Share with us. Let's see what you guys come up with. You can be creative. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.